something about that family, they won't like that. They'll expect much greater things out of you. They're expecting greater things out of the Americans they're bringing in. I'll guarantee you the standards are extremely high. Okay, any questions that you have? Or do we get to go home and let my wife beat me up? That's a true story. She hits me all the time. I'm beginning to think it's beginning to give me brain gain.
You mentioned in the beginning of you mentioned that journals are moving from being helpful and supportive to researchers into being, an attackers. Would you think, academia in Australia, which level is it? Because I think it's different from Britain in terms of its system.
It is. But if you look, let's take the list of 2,450 journals that Australia ranks. How many of those come out of the United States? 75%. I already did the numbers. So is it different? Yeah, because you've got some others that we don't have in Europe and Australia and all over the place. But if you're going to hit the better journals, they're going to be in the United States. If you look at the Financial Times, they've got a list of the 40 top journals in business in the world. 37 are from the United States. Is that in engineering the same way? I don't know, but I'd be surprised if it wasn't. I think what's happening is we're teaching you not to be innovative, we're teaching you not to take risks, we're teaching you to get by the gatekeepers, and the way you do that is be real quiet. Don't say anything that might upset them, don't say anything that might be controversial, don't bring up something that's brand new, that you're the only person that thought of it, because you're not going to get it through. Yeah, I think you're going to run into that in almost any good journal. Not great journals, just good journals. It's gotten so much more difficult to publish since I started. I mean, I got a whole bevy of articles that I got published early on that there's no way they'd be accepted today. Absolutely no way they'd be accepted. There were less journals, but there were less people trying to get into the journals. We didn't have this incessant revision thing. We didn't have a 1.5-year waiting period. I'd send an article in and 75% of the time say, okay, fine, we'll take it. Never changed it again. My life changed dramatically when in the middle 80s they started saying, you got to change every word that's in that article. So back to your question, the answer is, you may not like it, but you're going to be held to those standards because the better journals across most disciplines are going to come out of the United States, some from Europe. Do I agree with that? The answer is no, but that's the way it is right now. Go back and look at the A-star journals here in business, in 75% from the U.S. What else? Yes?
Okay. Remember how you mentioned that you need to develop a group of researchers?
Mm-hmm. Not just from this room.
True. Now, since many of us here in this room will be most likely traveling back home, and we want to pair up with people overseas, so I guess my question is two segments. The first is, what's one way of being in touch with people that you need to pair up with so that you can actually...
I get at least five inquiries a day from people all over the world.
People that you don't know.
I have no idea who they are. And then I told you about the girl with the dual career stuff. Did I tell you that story? I thought I told you that story. The young lady contacted me from Australia 12 years ago.
Yes, it is.
I'm moving with my husband to Philadelphia. Can you tell me about dual career? Yes. Okay, so I did. A year later, I get an email from her. Well, I've got a web page. I'm getting 5,000 hits a day on this thing. Can you give me some more information? So I did. She left from Philadelphia and went to Brussels. I get an email from her. She said, well, I've just written a book on this thing. Here's a copy for you with the signed thing. Then she moved to Singapore and she said, well, I've just published 4 articles on this topic. This is an undergraduate degree person, mother of 2, who's just following her husband around the world. I just, before I left her, finished up her 508-page dissertation from Monash on the topic. So the answer is they're all over the place. But the real key to finding people is to, flattery to old people is a neat thing. And these people write me, and I can do all kinds of things. They say, oh, I read an article here, it was just wonderful. It's probably a piece of trash, that's why they want something else. But every morning I sit down for the first hour and I'm answering these people's emails. When you go to a conference, go to a session that's of interest to you and go up afterwards and say, boy, that's really a great presentation. I'm doing work in this same area. Would you take a look at it? 9 times out of 10 people say, oh yeah, I'll take a look at it. And you follow up and say, gee, I'm glad I met, I'll look forward to receiving your review of my article. 9 times out of 10 they'll send it back to you. And if it's really interesting, they'll say, well, you know, if we work collaboratively on this, you know, well, so you have to be the aggressor to say, I need help.
Okay, thanks. And my second part of the question would be, what's the best way of managing this, given the technology that we have now? I mean, like, for myself, I really prefer these one-on-one.
Yeah, you're not going to get
meetings.
this.
Of course. So if you're overseas, yeah. So if you're overseas, and I know that you manage this a lot, so can you give us some example?
Yeah, what I do is I read about 20 journals a month. And anytime I find something that's unique, clever, unusual, I'll contact the person and say, gee, I work in a related area, I'm really interested in this area, do you have anything else? And 9 times out of 10, it'll build, a conversation will build up.
Yes.
And they'll say, well, here's a new one we're working on. I'll say, well, gee, have you thought about this theory? And all of a sudden, I'm on the paper.
So you're using like track changes and Microsoft?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. I work with 30 people around the world. I work with no one at my university other than Miriam. They're all over the world. This, well, it's not the watch time. I have a watch that has 4 different time zones in, so I can remember who the hell's up and who's not up when I hit the office. Why do I go to work at 5 o'clock in the morning? Because half the people I work with, it's late in the afternoon for them. The key to it is you've got to be the aggressor. Here's my paper, here's my card, here's do this. I've read your paper, here I've got an idea on it. You've got to be the aggressor on it. If you don't push it, they're not going to come after you for sure. I don't give a damn who you are. And if you can come up with some good ideas, then all of a sudden I start getting interested. But I don't even want to ride home with you, much less work on research with you. He's the worst driver in the world. He is the worst driver. How many times have we almost hit somebody? Twice. It's a 20-minute ride. We almost hit people twice. I don't mean, oh, look out there. It was, oh, watch it, here they come.
He's very nervous because he's with you.
Yeah, of course. Then he parked. He parked like he was a taxi cab driver. He couldn't do that again if you gave him 50 tries, I guarantee you.